Afternoon sunlight bathed the marble floors to glass-like brilliance at the posh Aurelia Hotel, where chandeliers cast golden reflections of lives that had never known hardship. The air hummed softly, with the murmur of elegant conversations and the faint clinking of crystal glassware. In the middle of this polished perfection stood Nora Vellen, a timid young waitress whose hands slightly shook as she adjusted her apron. She had worked here 2 weeks and was just another invisible shadow to guests who had too much money to consider those who served. But on this quiet afternoon, a single act of courage would change her life and touch even the coldest hearts. Before we get started, if you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, take a minute and like, comment, share, and subscribe to Real Kindness Stories. Sometimes the tiny gestures speak louder than 1,000 words. Nora's life had always been defined by silence. She didn't grow up with luxury or confidence, but with quiet resilience. Her father walked out when she was 12. Her mother was left working double shifts just to keep the lights on. In those long, lonely evenings, Nora found comfort in learning sign language, a way to communicate with her little brother Eli. Born deaf, that skill, born from love and necessity, became her secret strength, the language of the heart, where words are never needed. Working at the Aurelia Hotel was a world away from what she knew. Here, billionaires, diplomats, and heirs dined under gold ceilings and crystal chandeliers. On that particular day, Nora was assigned to serve Table 9, a private reservation for Adrian Cole, a billionaire known for his brilliance and icy demeanor, and his mother, Margaret Cole, a woman whose grace was matched only by her quiet dignity. Adrian was the kind of man people whispered about, powerful and respected, yet emotionally unreachable. As Nora approached their table, her palms grew damp with nerves, but something made her pause. The questions from the waiter brought no responses from Margaret Cole. She smiled faintly, her eyes straining to read his lips. That was when Nora noticed it, the small, discreet hearing aid, and the way Adrian leaned in slightly whenever he spoke with her. Nora's heart had contracted. She knew that rhythm, the soft striving of someone who lived in 2 worlds, one steeped in sound, the other wrapped in silence. Adrian looked up, his face set in expectation of the usual formalities. But before he could say a word, Nora took a small, even breath, and then, her fingers shaking, she signed, "Would you like still or sparkling water?" For a moment, the whole room seemed to freeze. Margaret's eyes went wide in astonishment. Her hand lifted to her chest as emotion filled her face, tears welling, not from sadness, but from pure recognition. She signed slowly back. "You know sign language?" Nora nodded, her lips curving into a gentle smile, while her heart raced. Across the table, Adrian watched in utter disbelief. For years, he had seen the world treat his mother with awkward pity, waiters avoiding her, conversations leaving her behind. Every dinner had been a quiet act of protection. But this moment, this silent exchange between 2 strangers spoke louder than any words ever could. Something extraordinary was happening across the elegant linen table. For the first time in years, Margaret Cole was laughing, genuinely, freely, her hands moving gracefully in conversation with a stranger who spoke her silent language. As the afternoon unwound, the air around Table 9 shimmered with something almost magical. It was no longer about serving a meal, but about Nora building a bridge. Every gesture, every signed question, and polite smile was warm and connecting. She signed each option on the menu, adding little playful gestures that brought a sparkle to Margaret's eyes, a light that had been dim far too long. Soon the other guests were staring. The billionaire's quiet mother was laughing and signing animatedly with the shy waitress now. A ripple of whispers spread through the grand dining hall, but Adrian didn't care. For once, business, deadlines, and profit margins didn't matter. What mattered was seeing his mother alive again, happy, engaged, and seen. But for Nora, this wasn't just kindness. It was memory. Her fingers danced across the air, and her mind thought of Eli, her little brother who used to pull at her sleeve for attention, whose laughter once filled their modest home. It had been 2 years since he lost his battle with illness. But in that moment, through Margaret, Nora felt him near as if fate had given her one last conversation through another soul. As the dinner finally wrapped up, Margaret was determined to meet Nora in person. Adrian hung back as his mother took the young woman's hands between hers, diamond-bright tears clinging to her lashes. She breathed softly. "You made me feel seen. You reminded me I'm not alone." Nora's lips quivered as she signed back. "You reminded me that love never disappears." Time stood still, it seemed, as the quiet beauty of that exchange wrapped the room in something almost sacred, something unspoken yet deeply felt. Later, Adrian took Nora aside. Her heart was racing as she felt that she could be reprimanded for being out of line. But his tone was different, gentle, uncertain. He told her how his mother had felt isolated for years, even among friends and family, and how no one had ever taken the time to truly connect with her in her own language. And then, for the first time, Adrian's mask of control cracked. He acknowledged that his mother once taught him the power of empathy, which he had buried beneath years of boardrooms, mergers, and ambition. It had been a small action on the part of Nora, but it reminded him of what really mattered. When she shared a little about her brother, Adrian finally understood the depth behind her gesture. Without hesitation, he made two quiet but powerful decisions. The Aurelia Hotel would sponsor free sign language training for all its staff, in memory of Eli, and Nora herself would receive a full scholarship to study special education. Because, as he said, the world needs more people who can bridge silence with compassion. News that day traveled well outside of the hotel. Guests who had witnessed the moment shared it online, and soon the story went viral, a symbol of quiet humanity, proof that empathy still exists in a world too often rushing past it. What Nora had done was something no amount of money and power in this world could buy, to have spoken to a heart without using words. From then on, Margaret kept coming back and would always ask about Nora. A friendship blossomed, a living reminder that kindness doesn't need sound to be heard. Weeks later, during her break, Nora stood by the window, watching the sun dip beyond the city skyline. A soft smile reached her lips as she whispered a silent thank you to Eli, to Margaret, to the universe. Life still tested her with loneliness, but moments like these reminded her of an important fact. Love always finds its way back, sometimes by means of strangers who need it as much as you do. If this story warmed your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Real Kindness Stories, because the world needs more reminders that even the quietest acts of compassion can echo louder than words. Before you go, tell us in the comment, would you have done what Nora did if you were in her place?